This is a brain scan of a baby who is awake. At Yale, in 2025, researchers got roughly 24 infants, some as young as 4 months, to lie still inside an MRI scanner while pictures were shown to them. And they watched the hippocampus, the part of the brain that files experience into long-term storage, light up as it recorded them. But not one of those babies will remember any of it. Not the pictures, not the room, not the noise of the machine, not the researchers, not their own parents standing beside them, not 1 second of that entire day. This is the story of where the first years of a human life actually go, and the growing suspicion that they do not go anywhere at all. The scanner work comes from Nicholas Turk Brown's lab at Yale, published in 2025. Most of the rest comes from experiments on mice, done by Paul Franklin and Sheena Jocelyn, among others. Where the evidence stops being about humans, that will be said plainly. 1899. A Viennese doctor notices something nobody had thought to write down. Sigmund Freud gave it the name that stuck, childhood amnesia, and then gave it an explanation that turned out to be wrong. He proposed the memories were buried deliberately, pushed down because they were too much to face. That idea has essentially no evidence behind it and has been set aside. First steps and first birthdays are not traumatic. There is nothing there to repress, but the phenomenon he described is real, and it is close to universal. Across cultures, the earliest memory a person can retrieve lands at around age 3. Before that, almost nothing. And even after it, the record stays thin and patchy until somewhere near 7, which means the first chapter of every human life is missing, and the second one has holes in it. This happens to nearly everyone who has ever lived. The obvious first guess is that nothing was there to record. That guess is spectacularly wrong. Those missing years are the most intense period of learning in a human life, and nothing that comes later is close. In roughly 36 months, a baby learns to see properly, to recognize faces, to sit, to crawl, to walk. It reverse engineers an entire language from nothing but overheard noise, a feat no adult can match, and one that no machine matched for the better part of a century. The brain is physically building itself at a rate it will never approach again, and the second guess, that infants simply cannot form memories, collapses just as fast. A baby recognizes its mother's face. It knows its own home. Show it how a mobile spins when it kicks, and it will remember the trick days later and do it again on purpose. The memories form. They are simply not kept. So the puzzle is not an empty room. It is a room that was full and was emptied on a schedule in almost every human being who has ever lived. Something is doing this, and for a long time, nobody could say what. The leading answer is that forgetting is not a failure of the system. It is the cost of building it. A memory is not a file. It is a pattern, a specific arrangement of connections between specific cells. Change the wiring and the pattern degrades. And in the first years of life, the hippocampus is generating new neurons at a furious rate. Every new cell that pushes its way into an existing circuit alters the arrangement that was holding a memory in place. The brain is being built so fast that it paves over what is already written there. That is an elegant theory. What makes it more than a theory is that it has been tested in both directions. Researchers slowed neurogenesis in infant mice, and those mice held onto memories they should have lost, retaining them the way adults do. Then they ran it backwards. They accelerated new cell growth in adult mice, and the adults began forgetting like infants. Push the dial one way, forgetting stops. Push it the other, forgetting starts. In mice, this is about as clean as biological evidence gets. It is still mice, but the direction is unambiguous, and it reframes the whole question. Because if forgetting is caused by overwriting, the memory is not being deleted. It is being buried under construction, which raises a much stranger possibility. If the record is buried rather than destroyed, then in principle something should still be down there. So researchers went looking. Working with mice, they identified the specific cells that had held an infant memory, a memory the animal, by every behavioral measure available, had completely lost. It did not react. It showed no sign of remembering anything. Then they switched those exact cells back on, and the mouse remembered. The memory had not decayed. It had not been overwritten out of existence. It was sitting there physically intact, in a brain that had no way of reaching it on its own, which suggests something quietly staggering about the first years of a human life, that they may not be gone at all, that the whole of it, the faces, the rooms, the first time anything happened, could still be down there, held in cells that no longer have a road leading to them. Not erased, just unreachable. Because a memory needs more than storage. It needs a way back to it, and infants are missing two of the things adults use. The first is language. Words are the handles memories are lifted by. An experience that arrives before a person has any words is a wash of color, sound, and sensation with nothing to grip. Children who learn to talk begin, at almost the same moment, to keep memories they can retrieve on purpose. The second is stranger and harder to shake once heard. A memory is not just a record of an event. It is a record of an event happening to someone. And in the earliest years, that continuous someone is still being assembled. There is experience, but no stable main character for it to attach to, which may be the most honest version of the answer. The first years of a life were not filed under a name. They happened before there was anybody there for them to happen to. Here is the line between what is known and what is hoped. Known. The wall is real and close to universal. Known. Infants encode memories, and there is now direct scanner evidence of it. Known. Rapid brain growth degrades stored patterns, demonstrated in both directions in mice. Known. Language and a sense of self arrive alongside the memories that survive. Not known. Whether a human's lost early memories are recoverable at all. The mouse results are extraordinary. They involve switching on identified cells in an animal brain under laboratory conditions in a species whose memory system is far simpler than ours. Nobody has done this in a person. Nobody currently can. So the honest position is that the first years of a human life are, at present, unreachable. And whether that is permanent is an open question rather than a settled one. Behind that wall is the first version of you. Somebody who saw everything for the first time, learned to trust a face before knowing the word for it, and worked harder in 3 years than you have in any 3 since. You will never meet them. You cannot recall a single day they lived. And every one of those days is still holding you up. Maybe they are still in there, filed under a name that did not exist yet, waiting for a road that was never built. Or maybe that is just a story we tell, because the alternative, that the person who built us is simply gone, is harder to sit with.